Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends. Hope everybody recovered from Thanksgiving, ate a lot, had a lot of fun, watched a lot of football, enjoyed some quality time with your families, but it's time to jump right into it. We're going to start with college football. And I think, Jay, for me, the big news, of course, and I know it's close to you, is Ole Miss losing head coach Lane Kiffin to not just the pros or the Buckeyes, but to LSU. I mean, it's got to be tough for an LSU, for a Ole Miss kid, for their fan base, for their football team. What do you think? I mean, as we go into this, I mean, is it going to be the kind of us against the world, circle the wagons approach? What does the committee feel about LSU or about Ole Miss going into the playoffs?
You bring it up, and it's like close to my heart. My youngest son is a sophomore at Ole Miss, so Ole Miss has been a kind of an adopted new feel and fan base for us, and we've been back and enjoyed football games. And so obviously Lane Kiffin making this announcement, leaving Ole Miss after what he's built for these 6 years. And believe me, Ole Miss was a down football program, a down athletic program.
They did a great job, no question.
Kiffin brought this program back. Consecutive over 10-win seasons, an 11-win season this year, their best season ever. So Lane Kiffin did a fantastic job at Ole Miss and did great things at Ole Miss. And the way that he's walked away from this has kind of, somewhat ruined all that.
Right. Yep.
And again, Lane Kiffin, this was a tough situation. You have a chance to go date the prettiest girl at the prom. One of the top 6 programs in college football is offering you a job, a chance to go win a national championship, a real chance to go win a national championship, the best recruiting, more money than what Ole Miss can offer from that nil standpoint, and he wanted to take it. But the timing of Ole Miss is still playing in a playoff game. They still had to figure out their regular season is what's made this kind of so nasty. And other coaches have done it. We've seen the Tulane coaches leaving, the North Texas coach is leaving, other coaches are leaving, and they're not in this same scenario just because Lane Kiffin.
Situation.
Yeah, but he did this to himself.
Right.
You knew you were leaving. Announce that you were leaving, say, hey, I'm going to LSU, it's a better job, it's the job that I wanted, and Ole Miss people would have respected that.
Right.
Ole Miss is not one of those top 6 coveted jobs in the country. He built it to maybe be one of the top 20 jobs in the country, but he should have just been outright, forthright, saying I'm leaving and not drug us through this 2 weeks.
He kind of held the program hostage a bit.
Of nastiness, and then on the planes, I want to coach the team, I don't want to coach the team. You don't leave the program to get to coach the team. That's not how it works. So, listen, wish Lane Kiffin the best of luck at LSU. Ole Miss guys will get to play him next year. They'll be able to tell Lane Kiffin what they think of him. And the best thing about this for Ole Miss is the giant chip on the shoulder that these players potentially have right now to go prove themselves and what they can do absent of their coach. So they're going to be in this December 19th or 20th playoff game. My son was at the basketball game yesterday. Ole Miss got beat up by Miami, but the head coach and about 15 to 20 players made an appearance. He said the building came off just absolutely erupted. So there's a chip on their shoulder. There's an atmosphere at Ole Miss. They are going to get to most likely play a home playoff game. We'll see where the committee does there. Maybe it penalizes them, but right now they're sitting in the 6th spot. That's a home playoff game. Wish the kids the best of luck, and if they can stay in the 6th spot, they get a gift of probably playing Tulane, North Texas, Virginia, James Madison, so they're going to have a very, very winnable home playoff game to kind of carry that chip on their shoulder and show what they can do absent of Lane Kiffin.
That's the key, I think, is it that kind of us against the world mentality, circle the wagons, how fired up do they get, and I think it's going to be a team that bonds together over this. And I agree. I think that first playoff game, they get a playoff game at home, they are going to be sky high and pumped up. If they win that game, it's the next playoff game without Kiffin, I think, where we'll see the biggest impact. Before we dive into kind of a preview of what happened last week, and then looking at this week's games, last man standing. Just want to congratulate. We do have an official winner. His home property was Durango Station. So congratulations. One winner in our college football last man standing that won $100,000 against a $25 entry fee. 4 entries for $100 gets you a 5th bonus entry. So congratulations. Great job. $100,000 winner at Durango Station this year in the college football last man standing contest. So let's take a look back at what happened this past weekend. Some really good, interesting games. that you guys did really well on, maybe a few that we did well on. Ohio State over Michigan, 27-9. Good for you guys. Michigan did not cover. They were a 10-point underdog in this game. They had some chances to maybe get there, but didn't get it done. Oregon over Washington, 26-14. Oregon covered as well as a 7-point favorite. Vandy winning at Tennessee, 45-24 as a 3-point dog. That game was good for our side of the counter. Bama beating Auburn and covering the 6 points, 27-20. A game that kind of went back and forth a bit. Didn't look like Auburn would be in that game. Really played well in the second half. Good for you guys. Oklahoma beating LSU, 17-13. UNLV just crushing Nevada, 42-17. And in the big game too, Texas beating A&M 27-17. And really, when you think about it, does Texas have an argument or what?
Well, all those games that you talked about previously, it was a good weekend for the bettors in college football. All of those teams that had to win to stay in the playoff race did their winnings.
The best kind of stretch of a Friday, Saturday for the bettors that we've seen so far this season in college football.
Alabama, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, all those teams that were on the cusp of, if they've lost, they were going to give some of those outside teams a chance to jump in. None of them lost. They were all able to stay in. A lot of winning tickets cashed there. Talked about the one big upset we had in the top 10 was Texas knocking off Texas A&M.
How big of an upset is that, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, A&M was the 3 spot. It ruins their ability to hold on to that number 1 seed. It opens up the door for Georgia and Alabama to play again in the SEC championship. Potentially Alabama to increase where they're at in their seedings. A&M drops down a little bit. The big thing there was a bye spot to not have to play in that opening week of the playoff and earn that first round bye. And it continues to grow that argument for the Texas Longhorns and the Miami Hurricane when this all gets said and done.
The strength of
they're
schedule,
on the
right?
outside looking in, and they're going to have that beef. That, man, we played great competition. We won key games. Why are these other teams getting in? But it might be a little bit of too little, too late for those guys. But a big win for Texas and Longhorns.
Do you think? And I know we've talked about it a lot. Do you think it alters a team wanting to play a schedule like that? You look at who Texas opened up with Ohio State. Do you shy away from that a bit now, knowing that if you have a loss or two, that it really could prevent you from getting into the playoffs because you chose the route of having a much more difficult schedule?
Simple answer is yes, and simple answer to all of this college football is somebody needs to step up, and we need a better commissioner of college football. We talk about the Lane Kiffin saga and bowl games and nil money and transfer portals and schedules. Somebody's got to jump in and fix this stuff. We can't continue to have these same conversations year after year.
Look at pro football.
Year.
I mean, I know they're different sports, but you can't. A coach can't interview for a job if they're still playing in the playoffs. There's that one window in between where they have 1 week if they want to, but that's when you're going into the conference game, championship games, into the Super Bowl. So I think college football does have to change their structure dramatically to prevent this from happening.
You even talk about the conference championship week that we're now entering this week, of watching all these teams that are in the playoffs, in the playoff ranking that aren't playing versus the teams that are playing that are in the conference. And
it means nothing.
The games really mean anything.
Right.
Yes, Ohio State or Indiana can win a Big Ten championship, but is that really the end goal for those teams? No, it's a national championship. Yes, Georgia and Alabama can win an SEC championship, but is that really the end goal? They want to win a national championship game. So what do these games really mean?
And if you've got guys banged up, it's okay to hold them out, because it's not going to affect anything when the committee has their final say.
Would we rather see a week 13 where all of these teams are playing to give us another game that separates the schedules, more conference schedules, to get these teams to separate to see who gets in and who gets out? So that's a long conversation for another day, but college football needs to do some fixing to get this stuff right.
Even the nil money, I mean, we talk about baseball and how it's not a level playing field because there is no salary cap. The same thing really holds true, I think, in college football right now. It's not a level playing field. But again, these are arguments and discussions we can have at a later date. We're going to look at the schedule this week of games. There's some big conference championship games that are still intriguing. I mean, number 11, BYU, visits number 5, Texas Tech for the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech, who beat them up not too long ago. Texas Tech has gone from 11 to 13 in this game. A couple of betting trends maybe to look at here. BYU 6-1 against the number their last 7 games, 13-1 straight up their last 14 games, 10-1 straight up in their last 11 games against an opponent from the Big 12 Conference. BYU's gone under 5 of their last 6 games, played in December. Texas Tech, however, 5-0 against the number of their last 5 games. They've gone under 7 of their last 10 games, and they're 5-0 straight up as well their last 5 games. And they sit here as almost 2 touchdown favorites against the Cougars.
Yeah, and I'll start this one. This is where chaos can start in the college football playoff rankings. You talk about BYU, they're a 13-point underdog. They were a 12.5 to 13-point underdog at Texas Tech when College Game Day was there. You talk about it, they lost 29-7 in that game. Really outplayed, had a bad interception return, but this Texas Tech defense has been absolutely suffocating. Only allowed 7 points to BYU, allowed 9 points to UCF the week after, shut out West Virginia last week. Texas Tech is absolutely rolling. They find themselves sitting as the 4 seed right now, getting that bye. A Big 12 championship. They're at least a 4, potentially can go to potentially probably the 3 with a win here over BYU. BYU, 13-point underdog. Like I said, if they can pull the money line outright win, they will cause absolute chaos for the committee, because that means they're going to have to put BYU into the championship, and what that will do is force them to drop most likely a Notre Dame or an Alabama or an Oklahoma from the rankings. I don't think they'll punish Alabama for playing in an SEC championship.
It's worst case scenario for the committee, though. There's no question.
It would be potentially a crushing blow to Notre Dame Fighting Irish if BYU was to pull an upset here.
Not that I want to see it be a crushing blow to anybody, but the way that it's structured, go BYU. Create that havoc, if they win, because I think it needs to be rethunk. I think you really need to kind of look at it. I agree with you with these conference championship games that don't mean anything. I think there's a lot of things that can be fixed here, and maybe the committee deserves to have a little bit of chaos and craziness that's going to make their job a little bit more difficult. So we'll look at some other big games as well. How about number 4, as you said earlier, Georgia, Bama. You have number 4, Georgia at number 10. Bama in the SEC championship. Georgia has gone from a 1.5-point favorite to 2.5 here. Total sits at 48. Total's gone under in 4 of Georgia's last 5 games. They're 8-0 straight up in their last 8 games. However, Georgia's just 1-5 against the number their last 6 games against the Crimson Tide, and they're 1-10 straight up in their last 11 games against Alabama. Bama 8-2 against the number their last 8-2-1 their last 11 games. Bama 10-1 straight up their last 11 games. And Bama has gone over in 10 of their last 14 games against Georgia. So a lot of trends here really favor Bama a little bit and favor the over in this game.
Well, you've talked about the Alabama dominance over the Georgia Bulldogs. They've won 10 of the last 11 games. Only one was, I believe, the national championship
game. Right.
Game was the only game they lost. Georgia's also 0-4 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium against this Alabama Crimson Tide. We go all the way back to September 27th. I believe it was week 4.
But the number's gone up, actually. We've seen it go from 1.5 to 2.5, so right now the money is backing the Bulldogs here.
Go back all the way to week 4. Alabama was 2-1. Georgia was 3-0. Alabama was able to go into Georgia, 93,000 people, into Athens, Georgia, knock them off 24-21, stop Georgia's 33-game home winning streak. They had a 24-14 halftime lead. They were able to hold on to that. Georgia outscored them 7-0 in the second half. Georgia might have figured things out. Georgia's definitely been a slow starting team that figures things out and beats teams in the second half. They were unable to do that. They've obviously run the table since that time, get themselves to be number 3 in the college football playoff rankings, sitting with a bye week as we sit here today. I don't believe that this game punishes either of these two teams. So I do believe Georgia is in the college football playoff. I believe Alabama is in the college football playoff. If Georgia loses this game, I think they lose the bye week. They probably drop to the number 5. If they win, they probably go up to the number 2 and take over that number 2 spot, as the Indiana Ohio State loser would drop to the 3. However, if Alabama can continue their dominance over this Georgia team, they're currently sitting as the 9. They would
Where do they put them? Right.
Them probably, again, above Georgia. And they might actually end up taking away the bye week from both of these two teams. It would be incredible to me to have the SEC championship winner not get a bye week. But I think it could happen.
I agree.
That I think maybe they would put them as the 4, but if not, Alabama would probably go to the 5, or Georgia would have to fall
They're
to the
not
6.
jumping Ohio State or Indiana.
No,
Even whoever loses,
no way there.
They're not jumping them.
No way there. Texas Tech would leapfrog.
Right.
Alabama would potentially be the 4 or the 5. Oregon has a chance to jump to the potentially the 4. But again, Alabama win here causes the committee chaos. Committee wants to see Georgia get the win here, keep them in that 2-3 hole, keep Alabama in that 8-9 hole, and everybody lives comfortably and the chaos doesn't exist. So an Alabama win here would cause chaos again as to who jumps into that bye week as an SEC champion.
I'm voting for chaos this week, guys. You heard it here. All right, let's look now at the Big Ten championship. You've got number 2 Indiana, number 1 Ohio State. That it's kind of a meaningless game to some degree, is what you talked about. Both schools come in undefeated at 12-0. Ohio State opened up a 6-point favorite because they've said maybe we don't play the wide receivers who are banged up the whole game. We know that their end game is the national championship. The number has come down from 6 to 5. Total's gone over in 5 of Indiana's last 6 games. Indiana is just 2-4 though against the number. Their last 6 games against Ohio State. They're 0-10 straight up in their last 10 games against Ohio State. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, 8-1 against the number of their last 9 games. Ohio State has gone over 7 of their last 8 games against Indiana. So a lot favors the Buckeyes here and the over in this game between these two schools.
Yeah, and I don't think as we sit, both teams 12-0, obviously undefeated in the Big Ten, sitting 1-2 in the country. After this game, they're not going to play in that December 19th and December 20th. These teams are getting a bye week, so they're going to be waiting all the way to New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So there's going to be plenty of time for these guys to get healthy. I do envision both these teams are going to play their guys, try and win this Big Ten championship, try and be number 1 in the rankings. A lot to say here for Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin, the quarterbacks respectively, 2 guys that are fighting for that Heisman Trophy, that trip to New York to go down here. So this is going to be a fantastic game. This will be our match of the day on Saturday. Take advantage of that 10% bonus. You made mention of it. Ohio State opened a 6.5-point favorite. We sit as a 5 today. There are 4.5s, even a 4 out there. So this line has been coming down. A lot of respect for Indiana, what they've done, Coach Signetti and what they've been able to do. Again, this has been a dominant Ohio State defense.
Bet against, and they went into Oregon and won a big road game, which we thought was one of the toughest places to go in the country. They won that game, and now they face Ohio State on the road again here.
Not really on the road. I mean, a neutral site game. If anything, it's more of a home game with the fact that it's in Indianapolis.
Lucas Oil, right?
So you are going to get that Indiana fan base. But Ohio State, again, what they've been able to do on the defensive side of the football, and we'll see if that holds true here in running the table. I think Ohio State. Obviously, the big win over Michigan last week. Talk about that kryptonite that teams have been facing. Ohio State was able to get rid of one of those kryptonite teams on them in Michigan. So a big win there, a big catalyst, momentum builder there for them. But again, I don't think these teams. You can make the argument that regardless of what happens here, these two teams should still be 1 and 2 in the country and not be penalized for a loss here in the Big Ten championship. So you could give Georgia potentially that 2 if they win, but I won't be surprised at all if we still see Ohio State, Indiana, or Indiana, Ohio State 1 and 2 after the Big Ten championship.
Another game I want to look at just really quickly here too is Duke at number 18, Virginia. Virginia opened 2.5. This game's gone to 3.5. Duke's gone over 4 of their last 5 games. They're 6-3 straight up their last 9 games. However, they're just 1-9 against the number of their last 10 games against Virginia. Virginia is 7-3 against the number of their last 10 games. The total has also gone under in all 6 of Virginia's last 6 games against an opponent from the ACC. So just something to think about there as well.
Yeah, and I don't want to say shame on the ACC, but the ACC's got some cleanup that they need to do in their conference as well. The conference tiebreaker ends up letting Duke, who sits at 7-5 overall, 6-2 in the conference. Pittsburgh 6-2, Miami 6-2, SMU 6-2. Miami currently sits as the number 12 seed in the college football rankings, but they don't have a chance to improve and get to the college football playoff because we're going to watch Virginia play Duke in an ACC championship. Virginia wins, Virginia wins, they're currently 17. Virginia win, and they're in. They'll find themselves as the 11 or 12 seed. A Duke win, and again, chaos.
I'm telling you, it is chaos.
Chaos for the committee. Duke wins. It now gives the North Texas Tulane winner in the American Conference a chance to jump in. And then you have to ask yourself, is James Madison a higher ranked conference champion than Duke? And is the ACC deserving of a team to get in? And you start to ask yourself, is number 12 Miami, who has a head-to-head win against number 10 Notre Dame, do we need to put the ACC in there when those teams are essentially the same and Miami has the head-to-head win?
Like he said,
so again,
it's chaos.
A BYU win, chaos. An Alabama win, chaos. A Duke win, chaos. And I'll go back. BYU causes chaos, Duke causes chaos. Alabama's the third in the chaos because those are just intermingling teams that are already in the playoff. BYU and Duke cause teams that are currently outside the playoffs to find their way into the playoffs.
All right, so I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit because I should have touched on this game first because it's a Friday night game, but it's near and dear to our hearts. It's the Mountain West Championship game. It's UNLV against Boise. We know that UNLV has not played well there in the past. This game with Matson, the uncertainty, looks like he's probable now. The game has gone from 3 up to 4.5 and down to 4 right now. But this can be a little bit chaotic as well, I think, with UNLV and Boise. So you look at this game for the Mountain West. As I mentioned, Matson is expected to play. UNLV has gone 10-5 against a number of their last 15 games, 15-2 straight up their last 17 games. But they're just 1-5 against the number their last 6 games against Boise, and 0-8 straight up in their last 8 games against Boise. So you look at Boise right now, they've gone over 4 their last 6 games against Vegas, so really favors Boise. You look at this number and what the spread was when these two teams played not that long ago and what the final score was. I know Jay's going to touch on that, but it has not been a place where UNLV has done well. So,
well, we talk about Alabama being Georgia's kryptonite. Boise State is the running Rebels kryptonite.
Throwing Rebels.
You said 8-0. I think they're actually 9-0 in their last 9 games against the Rebels straight up, 3-6 against the spread. But we go back to October 18th. Boise closed a 13-point favorite at home against the Rebels, and then ended up winning that game by 25, 56-31.
UNLV could not stop them.
In what looks 56-31 looks like a dominating performance. However, when you go back and look at the numbers, UNLV out first down them 22-21. Rushing yards were 261-294. Passing yards 215-264. Time of possession was in favor of the Rebels, 32 minutes to 28 minutes. So the Rebels were in that game. The big plays, interception return for a touchdown allowed Boise to stretch that out. But the fact that you're going in December to play on the blue Smurf turf against a team that you just can't beat, and the reason why
it might be a little chilly there.
The reason why this line is only 4.5, and again we saw this line 3 and has gone up to 4.5 is Mattis Madsen. Max Cuthbert has been the quarterback for Boise the last 4 games since when Madsen hurt himself against Fresno State. Maddox went out of that game against Fresno. They lost. Maddox against San Diego State, they lost. They then beat Colorado State, and they snuck by Utah State last week, all without Maddox. So getting Maddox back into the lineup is a huge shot in the arm for them to get. But again, they were 13-point favorites the last time they played. Here, only a 4.5-point favorite because Maddox hasn't played for these 4 weeks to get them back and rolling. So we'll see if this is a short line and this Boise State can go and do it again. But again, that game, a 25-point blowout, I think it was a little bit closer than the score indicates.
Been a really tough spot
but
for
Boise
the Rebels.
really ran over them. And again, the Rebels have not proven at all that they can go beat this Boise State team.
They need to turn that turf red that day to give UNLV maybe an edge. So again, it's going to be a really exciting college football slate this week. Congratulations.
And before getting off of that, the college football playoff, we talked about. First of all, it starts with BYU for the madness, craziness. Duke can cause some craziness. So if you're watching on the outside, looking in, Tulane and North Texas, there's a real chance. Again, if we get that BYU upset, the winner of the American between Tulane and North Texas, with North Texas is a 2.5-point favorite in that game. On the road, essentially playing in New Orleans against Tulane, and then the other one, James Madison, a big favorite. They can also sneak in there. So those are the games that are on the outside looking in at that college football playoff. But again, Georgia, Alabama, 2 teams that last week Georgia snuck by Georgia Tech. We saw Alabama on the road at Auburn sneak in. that can be a game that really shakes up the seeding, and clearly BYU and Duke can change things up, and we'll see if Miami, Texas, Tulane, North Texas, and James Madison can sneak their way in. So an awesome Saturday night, Friday night, and Saturday night college football championships that'll then dictate what we're going to see in the playoffs, the bowl season, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. As Jay mentioned, it's going to be kind of crazy. We'll see if chaos reigns or not.
And I didn't mention it, Friday, UNLV, Boise, match of the day, take advantage of the 10%. Indiana, Ohio State on Saturday, match of the day, take advantage of that 10% bonus.
Not much more for me to say, guys, but it's going to be a fun college football weekend. So, pro football, I mean, I don't remember the puppies barking so loud as they were last week. I know I've been in the industry a long time, and I think we both have a number of years that we've sweated games on Thanksgiving, and we're hoping you'd get one puppy to bark a little louder than the rest. But to get all three, not only to cover, but to win, I can't remember that happening. And I know the Black Friday games haven't been going on that long, but to get a 7-point dog to win on that day as well, I haven't seen that in a long time.
You talked about chaos. We talked about chaos in our last segment of college football. It's just led to all these questions on who can make the playoffs, who's out of the playoffs. We're seeing teams that we expected to be sitting with potential bye weeks and winning,
on the outside looking in,
winning their divisions, winning their conferences, and the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Lions on the outside looking in, and the teams we thought were good are losing. The Eagles are losing, and a team that we didn't expect to maybe be contending for the playoffs is now sitting at the number 1 seed in the NFC.
The Bears.
Chicago Bears. So we saw the favorites make this incredible stand last year, an incredible run, and now things are balancing out.
But it's not 1985, right? With the Patriots being the number 1 seed in the AFC and the Bears in the NFC, something's wrong, right?
The Denver Broncos sitting at the top. I mean, we're just seeing week after week after week. Expect the unexpected, and it's been fun. It's been fun. It's been chaotic, and we'll see if we get another week of chaos as we head into this week.
And much different than what we saw last year. I think last year, as we rolled into December, you started to see there was such separation with the favorites who were dominating pro football. That hasn't been the case this year. When you think about it, really, the Packers dominated the Lions in that game on Thanksgiving. The Cowboys dominated the Chiefs. The Bengals were ahead in that almost entire game against the Ravens, and the Bears then, who had almost 300 yards rushing against the Eagles, dominated time possession, and were ahead almost that entire game too. So it wasn't even close. So you're right, you've seen a lot of uncertainty. The league seems to be upside down a bit, a lot of backward stuff right now, but hey, that's what makes pro football so great. We'll see, but I never thought we'd be in December talking about the Chiefs and Lions potentially maybe not making the playoffs. I thought they'd be playing in February, maybe in San Francisco. But a couple of things we want to look at, some kind of topics of conversation, and kind of teams that are bubble teams and teams that maybe we're excited about or not too excited about. So let's look at the AFC first. The teams that people have kind of asked about is, what do we think about the Texans, Steelers, Chiefs, and Bengals? For me, there's only one team of those four that I'm kind of getting a little excited about, and that's the Texans. I mean, you look at how well they've played of late. They're starting to get healthy a bit, but that defense is ranked number 1 in football. They've only given up 23 touchdowns right now. They play at Kansas City on Sunday Night Football. They're a 3.5-point underdog, and they can really put a hurting on the Chiefs if they can win this game. I like that Texans team. The Bengals, I just don't think, even with Burrow back, they have enough. The Steelers, there's a number of issues there. You've got Rodgers calling out his receivers. Defensively, they haven't played well. I don't think it's them either. For me, it clearly is the Texans right now that I think can still win the AFC South.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about Texans, Chiefs, Steelers, Bengals, what team gets you excited and what team you're looking forward to, the 7-5 Texans and kind of the 5-game winning streak that they've been able to put together. They beat the Bills.
They've done it on
you
defense.
You can see that defense coming forward, and obviously they're the closest team to getting in the playoffs as we sit today at 7-5. But that 6-6 Chiefs that's directly behind them have a guy named Patrick Mahomes that we've seen, like we've watched him in the playoffs for so many years.
Yeah.
So I don't know how do you not get excited about Sunday Night Football, Texans at Chiefs, when this is a game that the Chiefs.
I'm excited about the game. I'm just more excited about the Texans.
More excited about the Texans, but I mean, the Chiefs are we really not gonna see Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs this year?
Or the Lions?
And so the Texans go there. This is obviously a huge game if the Texans can win it. As you sit with Indianapolis and Jacksonville, both at 8-4, ahead in the division, they play each other head to head. So somebody's going to have a game lead there and be tied even with the Texans, with the team that loses there. So it seems like that AFC South is going to have somebody else win the division, and they're going to have a great chance to have a wild card representative. The Chiefs, this turns into what looks like a must-win game. Not so much a must-win game on the Texans side of thing. The next 2 weeks, they play Arizona at home. They play the Raiders at home. So they've got a chance to win some games. But the Chiefs, this seems like a must-win because you'll fall 2 games behind this Texans team. And if you beat them, now you have the head-to-head tiebreaker with them. This becomes the big game for the Chiefs. But I think that the most exciting team left to look at in the AFC is not the 7-5 Texans, the 6-6 Chiefs, the 6-6 Steelers, or the 4-8 Bengals. It's looking at the 8-4 Los Angeles Chargers, and the reason I say that is the 8-4 Chargers are in the playoffs.
They're sitting there in the playoffs, schedule.
But they play the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Texans, and the Broncos to finish out their season. So if we're going to talk about which team is going to determine who's playing in the playoffs and who's not playing in the playoffs, it is the 8-4 Los Angeles. And we're talking about both AFC and NFC playoffs. They play the Eagles and the Cowboys. They play the Chiefs, Texans, and Broncos. So the most exciting team left in the AFC that we need to watch is the Chargers. Either they're going to make this run and find themselves in the playoffs, or they're going to be awfully helpful to somebody else to get into the playoffs.
And their quarterback, Justin Herbert, broke his hand. His left hand, his non-throwing hand on Sunday, had surgery Monday. He's expected to play at this point, but still, how much does that kind of hinder what he can do on the field? But all right, so we talked a little bit about the AFC, but how about the NFC now? What team kind of gets you a little bit excited between the Lions, the Cowboys, and the Panthers? I know what the Lions are. I know that the Panthers are, they turned it on last year at the end of the year, struggled this year. But for me, it's the Cowboys. Since they made the trade for Quinnen Williams, they're 3-0. In that stretch, they've beaten the Eagles and they've beaten the Chiefs, the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. They're starting to get healthier on defense. That offense is dynamic with those receivers, with Pickens and Lamb. They're really, really good. They're Ferguson at tight end, Williams at running back, Dak's playing phenomenal. They're fun to watch right now. For me, it's the Cowboys. I don't know if they're going to get in or not, Jay, but they're an interesting team if they do, now that they're starting to play better defensively.
Yeah, I mean, just those last 2 wins to knock off the Eagles, knock off the Chiefs, especially the way they knocked off the Eagles with the big comeback there. We talk about, games of the year and games that are really going to be determining the season. For me, this is, now again, the Cowboys had to win last week against the Chiefs. That was, so game of the year for the Cowboys. They had to win the week before against the Eagles, game of the year. And the reason that all that is happening is because, of the bad losses that they had, and they lost to the 3-9 Arizona Cardinals in the week before the bye week. So the Cowboys have put themselves in this situation in must-win situations. And so, yes, they play at Detroit. They're going to get home games against Minnesota, the Chargers, and then they finish the season at Washington and at the Giants. So they've got winnable games on their schedule. This is the one that looks like it's the must-win because they're the dog here traveling to Detroit. Again, another team that's wounded with their backs up against the wall.
Is this a loser and maybe go home? I had that as some of the notes for when we get to that game to talk about the primetime games, but the loser of that game is really going to be behind the 8 ball a bit.
It's more a Cowboys loss. It becomes more devastating to them. And I hate to say that anybody is a must-win game at this point because we're just watching everybody lose. So all the teams that they're going up against are getting beat by upset situations, and we're watching underdogs beat these other teams. So I don't want to say anything is a must-win game with 5 games left to go into season.
I think
but
it is.
Sure feels like, from a Cowboys standpoint, with sitting at 6-5-1, already behind this 7-5 Lions team. So when your Lions here 7-5, Dallas 6-5-1, and if you lose to the Lions, who are both, right now sitting outside
Right,
of the
they're
playoffs.
both outside.
When you lose to the team that you're also chasing, it feels like a deadly situation to put yourself in that type of loss, especially when we're going to watch the teams above them in the Packers and Bears get to play each other twice. So if they split or one of those teams wins 2-0, it's going to be tough to then catch those other teams. So again, this does feel like a knockout punch that the Lions can deliver and knock the Cowboys out of things. If the Cowboys win here, again, it's going to put them in a great situation because they're going to leapfrog the Lions in that head-to-head tiebreaker situation.
Well, I want to jump right into the games this week, into Week 14. I think it's one of the more exciting weeks of the year so far. When you look at the games, there's 7 games on this week's schedule that mean something to both teams with playoff implications, and that starts with Thursday night. But just think about it a little bit, is that you right now have a situation where with the Lions and Chiefs both being on the outside looking in, that they might not get into the playoffs, that it's going to be an uphill battle maybe for both those two teams. But all right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Thursday night now. You've got the Dallas Cowboys red hot against the Lions. The Lions have 2 losses at home this year. They had been so dominant in that role. Cowboys come in with a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence. Their defense is playing better. They've won 3 in a row. They're getting healthier excuse me, on that side of the ball. The Lions, no St. Brown, no Laporta. They're going to need Jared Goff to play a great game here because the Cowboys come in with a lot of confidence. And without those guys, those are really the safety valves for Jared Goff. Williams has not had a great year this year. Jameson Williams has had a fair year, but everybody expects him to take the next step. He hasn't done that. It's going to have to be those running backs. You're going to need a big game out of those 2 running backs to really carry, I think, the Lions against the Cowboys.
Yeah, and they surely can do it. We saw just 2 weeks ago, Jahmyr Gibbs basically single-handedly defeated the New York Giants in that comeback win that they had against the Giants. No doubt Gibbs and Montgomery can run the ball,
right,
and they're going to have to stand up on defense. Jameson Williams did have a nice bounce back with Ahmad St. Brown out, had a nice game last week.
He's going to have to
we
again.
expect St. Brown to not be there. We'll see maybe the young man Tesla, who does nothing but score touchdowns and stuff to go there.
He's really been electric.
But this has got to be the Dan Campbell cojones on the table. This guy continues to go for it on 4th down. He goes for it on 4th down in every situation that they have a chance to go in on 4th down, and they win and lose based on whether they complete these 4th downs or not complete the 4th down. They're not going to give chance.
I'm going to interrupt you, though. I'm going to give you a stat. So after Week 13, okay, they are 6-13 going for it on 4th downs. They are 6-0 in weeks 8 and 9 going for it on 4th down. Since that time, they have not converted a 4th down. So at some point, kick the ball. Did you learn your lesson against the 49ers in that championship game? If he just kicks field goals, they win that game and they play in the Super Bowl. So I know he's got what you said on the counter, but I think at some point you have to take points in some of these games. And when he's as beat up as he is, with Laporta and St. Brown both hurt, if you have opportunities to put points on the board against another offense that is super potent, I think you have to take them, because at some point it's going to catch up with the Lions. I'll give you some betting trends here for this game too. Dallas 6-3 against the number of their last 9 games. They've gone over 7 of their last 9 games, which isn't a surprise. They're 6-1 in their last 7 games against Detroit. Detroit just 1-4 against the number their last 5 games. We've talked about that a little bit. Detroit 13-7 straight up in their last 20 games, and Detroit has gone over 9 of their last 12 games against Dallas. So even without those weapons, I can easily see this game going over the total.
Yeah, I mean, Prescott, what we've seen from him between Lamb and Pickens, the camaraderie that he has with Pickens, and again, he was a little bit banged up, but he's going to be fine going into this week. When you had Javonte Williams running the ball and catching the ball out of the backfield, Dallas has those offensive weapons that can be very scary, not only in this game, but if we talk about this team making the playoffs, what they have on offense is a very, very scary weapon.
So for me, again, I know we've chatted about it a little bit, but this is a great week because so many weeks you look at the schedule, maybe there's 1 or 2 games that kind of jump off the page as marquee games. I think there's really 7 good games this week that kind of do that for me. Another game you're going to look at now on Sunday, a huge AFC South battle between the first place Jags and the wild card Colts. They both come in at 8-4 right now. Colts are 2-3 on the road this year. The Jags have been playing really well of late. They come in now, they've won 3 in a row. So this is a game that the Jags quietly have kind of moved into that spot. They haven't been great, but they are in first place. Some betting trends: Indy 9-4 straight up their last 13. Indianapolis just 2-9 against the number their last 11 games against Jacksonville. Jacksonville 4-1 straight up their last 5 games. Jacksonville's gone over 5 straight games when they play the Colts. They're 9-0 straight up in their last 9 games when playing at home against the Colts. And guess what? They're catching a 1.5 here.
Yeah, we talk about especially the Colts. I talk about it going back kind of 4 weeks ago. The worst thing that happened to them was potentially hitting that bye week.
Right.
They had all that momentum. They hit the bye week, and then we find out about Daniel Jones with the hurt tibia. They haven't been able to get Jonathan Taylor going in these last couple of games when he was steamrolling. So that's what they need to get going again. They need to get Jonathan Taylor that ball again, keep that offense rolling through Jonathan Taylor, finding a sprinkling in of Tyler Warren and Pierce and those other guys from the receiving end. But the Colts starts, ends, and finishes with Jonathan Taylor getting the ball. And Jacksonville, go back and watch bookends for weeks and weeks in a row. I talked about how easy that schedule was and how they were going to continue to pick up wins, and they were going to be right here in this divisional fight. I think that they've got a great chance to make the playoffs, but now they've got a chance to make a statement and go in and win a division. They get to play this Colts team twice through the rest of the season. Trevor Lawrence has been but they've been winning games. He's been finding it with his feet. But the key here is the Jacksonville defense. They have to stop Jonathan Taylor if they want to win this game.
I think getting Jacoby Myers helped. Getting Strange back at tight end, who had been hurt almost the entire season. You gave him 2 more weapons now to go with those receivers, to go with Thomas, and I think that's really helped a lot, is that they've gotten a little bit healthier, and through trades, they've really been helped as far as the wide receiver position goes.
And they're getting chased by the Texans. So both of these teams, despite playing each other, the Texans are on the outside looking in. But man, it feels like Houston's really coming after this division as well.
So another game is a big AFC North battle between the Steelers and the Ravens. These two teams have so much history, so many games they play close to the vest. It's hard to believe that they're both just 6-6 right now. They seem to be trading spots every week. Who's in the playoffs? Who's out? Right now it's the Ravens at 6-6. They still play each other twice this year before the season ends. Kind of surprising, though, for the Ravens. They're just 3-4 at home, and both teams have negative point differentials with as good as you would think they would play defense. Ravens come into this game. The game opened 6.5. Has been as low as 5.5. It's back up to 6. Some betting trends here. Pittsburgh 2-5 against the number their last 7 games. They're 6-3 against the number, however, their last 9 games against Baltimore. Baltimore really struggling against the number, just 3-7 their last 10 games against the number. The total, though, here, which I think really jumps off the page, 9 of the last 10 times these two teams have played, the total has been under. We see a lot of those close games decided by 3 points or less, field goal games, so not a lot of scoring when these two teams meet. We know there's a lot of heat kind of on the Steelers right now. Rodgers didn't play well. He kind of called off Metcalf. There's been a lot of, kind of in the press about Tomlin as he lost this team. This is a Steeler team right now that has a lot to show. They're still going to host the Ravens later in the season. It's a big game for both these teams in the AFC North.
Yeah, and my expectations weren't high on the Steelers, so sitting at 6-6 isn't a surprise to me. The surprise here is the Ravens. Obviously, Lamar Jackson missed several games throughout the year. He's back, but they're not the Ravens. They're not the Ravens that we've seen when Lamar Jackson is healthy and Derrick Henry is healthy, and they have those receivers and Mark Andrews, and they have that big play capability, and we see Lamar Jackson scrambling all over the place. That's just not what we're seeing. We're seeing two teams that just kind of feel the AFC South was the division that was expected to get the division champion and not get a wild card team, and now that's turned into the North, and I think we're going to get the division
started,
champion.
We thought you'd get Bengals, maybe Ravens, and Steelers in it.
That's just not the case. Obviously, the team that wins here is in the driver's seat to take home the division. But again, just two teams that just don't feel right, and two teams that don't feel like they're going to be competitive as we go into the playoffs.
So now we're going to talk from the AFC North to the NFC North. And I know this is a game that's been flexed. It's now a 125 game. It's the Cheeseheads and the Bears. The first place Bears, as you alluded to earlier. I mean, what a matchup. I mean, the Bears arguably are the biggest surprise in the NFC right now. As I touched on, they're getting it done because they lead the league in takeaways. They're number 1 in running the ball. They still got some guys banged up on defense. Caleb hasn't been great. He's had his moments. They've got some young, talented players, but man, they're playing against a Green Bay team that they have not done well against in Lambeau. Green Bay has a top 10 defense. You've got Micah Parsons coming off of Caleb. And you have to remember, when Ben Johnson got the job, he sat there with the lights on like this, the camera on, crowds of people, and he said, I'm coming in to the toughest division in pro football, the NFC North. He says, I have the utmost respect for Dan Campbell and Kevin O'Connell. And I look forward to beating Matt LaFleur twice every year. Well, you're in first place right now. You have a chance to hold serve. And guess what? You're playing Matt LaFleur in Lambeau in a primetime game later in the afternoon on Sunday. So a lot going on here for the Bears. They come in as a 6.5-point underdog against the Packers. I'll give you some betting trends here as well. Excuse me. Bears 8-2 against the number of their last 10 games, 5-0 straight up. However, in Green Bay, 2-10 against the Packers, their last 12 games against the number against Green Bay. 1-11 straight up their last 12 games against Green Bay, so they have not done well during this stretch. Green Bay at home, though, although their offense looked good on Thanksgiving, they've gone under 5 of their last 6 games. But again, for the Bears, 2-10 against the number of their last 12, and 1-11 straight up in the last 12 against the Packers. So, as Aaron Rodgers used to say, he's not there anymore, but I own you. The Packers, the team, own the Bears. Bears come off some big wins, and that win against Philly, this is a chance for them to be in first place, not only in the NFC North, but to continue to stay in first place in the NFC in Lambeau on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's a huge game, but from again a Bears fan's perspective, don't want to get too high, don't want to get too low on where we're at in the season. Expectations, they've exceeded expectations at this point. They're a 6.5-point dog going into Green Bay. A loss here is not devastating. They still play at home against Cleveland the week following, and then they get the Packers in a game that's also been flexed to a Sunday night game. So again, Packers are expected to win here.
Actually, a Saturday night game.
Saturday night game. Packers are expected to win here. They come off obviously the big win against Detroit after the home loss against the Eagles 10-7. We just saw the Bears then beat the Eagles in Philadelphia when the Packers lost to the Eagles at home. So the balance feels like it's there, but as a Bear fan, I don't want to get myself and tell myself that this is a must-win situation for the Bears. It's not. A loss here doesn't collapse anything. You still go and win the next week. A win here by the Packers.
Packers are 3-0 against the division too. They're 3-0 against the North right now.
They both stay ahead of the Lions, put themselves in winning situations. But again, a fantastic game, and the Bears go in here and win and continue to shock the world and play these upsets. Boy, I mean, you've got to just continue to give this team credit. You talked about the running backs both having 100-yard games. The first times the Eagles had allowed 2 running backs to have 100-yard games.
Well, they hadn't let anybody rush for 100 this year. No team had rushed for 100 yards or a player against the Eagles' defense this year. They gave up 2 against the Bears on Black Friday. So I mean,
the Bears are finding ways to win. We talk about a team that came here to Las Vegas and won 25-24 against a Raiders team that really can't score at all anymore, and now is going on the road and beating the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Bears are finding ways to win. We'll see if they can keep this game close and find another way to steal a game in Green Bay.
It's been a lot of fun being a Bear fan, as we both are. It's been a lot of fun this year. I don't think we expect them to be as good. Let's look at the 2 primetime games right now. We've touched on these teams a little bit, and that's the Texans at the Chiefs. Texans 7-5, Chiefs are 6-6. Every game becomes so important to the Chiefs right now. If they make the postseason, they're going to be a wild card team. I don't really think there's a scenario where they win the AFC West right now. They come into this game a 3.5-point favorite. Total is 42. Chiefs are 5-1 at home this year, however, only 1 loss, while the Texans are 3-3 away. You look at the Texans, 6-3 against the number. Their last 9 games, they've really been playing well. Their total with that defense has gone under 5 of their last 6 games. I think when you look at their defense too, Jay, they're number 1. They've only given up 23 touchdowns this year, which is far and away the best in the NFL. So we know how good that Chiefs offense can be, but what is keeping the Texans in games, as they've started to get a little bit healthier offensively, is that defense that has just been stout so far. Houston is 0-5, however, the last 5 times they played in Kansas City. Kansas City has not been lighting it up either, just 1-4 against the number their last 5 games, but undefeated this year at home.
Yeah, we talk about every team that's playing this week. This is the game for me that is a absolute must-win for the Kansas City Chiefs. We talk about where they sit in the playoff race. We talk about the Houston Texans are currently in front of them in the playoffs. A loss here makes them fall 2 games behind in the wild card situation, and I don't know where we're going to see other teams lose. As the Chargers are also sitting 8-4. The Chiefs play Houston this week, the Chargers next week. They do have 2 road games left in their season, at Tennessee and at Las Vegas. So they do have 2 winnable road games. But Houston, the Chargers, and Denver on their home schedule. This feels like an absolute must-win for the Chiefs. They have to be feeling it in that locker room. Again, losing as favorites at Dallas. This is just not a comfortable feeling, not a feeling that the Chiefs have felt for the last several years. Backs up against the wall with an incredible defense coming in and an offense that seems to be gaining some momentum. Stroud now back in the lineup, finding Collins, finding Woody Marks. The Texans seem to be getting better and better each week, although they had that 16-13 sneak by game against Tennessee. So the defense has been good, but offensively, they're still an offensively challenged team, and that's why you see this number. Right. The Chiefs still a favorite here. But for me, this is the game of the week, no doubt. That's why it's on Sunday night. Must-win game for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, really an interesting matchup. As I said, this week has so many good games that mean something to both teams, and it finishes the week off on Monday Night Football the same way. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to LA to play the Chargers. We've touched on already that Justin Herbert has the broken wrist. He should play in this game. You look at this game here, Eagles 8-4, Chargers 7-5. I'm going to give you some betting trends here too. Philly 12-6, excuse me, against the number of their last 18 games. They've gone under for their last 5 games. 14-4 straight up their last 18. Just 1-4 though, however, against the number their last 5 games against the Chargers. Chargers 3-6 this year against the number their last 9 games. Chargers have gone over 5 of the last 6 times they've played Philly. So you might see some scoring in this game. Philly should be mighty angry coming off a loss and losing that top seed in the NFC.
Well, Philadelphia should be mighty angry. Their fans, and we all know how friendly Philadelphia fans are. I think they're known for
friendly, a good word?
Throwing snowballs and beating up Santa Claus and
snowballs at Santa Claus.
But this week, after what the Eagles did against the Bears and only scoring 14 points, their offensive coordinator's house was egged in New Jersey. So those Philadelphia fans are not friendly. They get angry easily, and they should be angry. Their last 4 games, offensively, they put up 10 points in a win against the Packers, 10-7 win. They put up 16 points in a win against the Lions, 21 in a loss to the Cowboys, and then 15 in a loss to the Bears. So offensively, they just don't have things going. They've kind of moved away from the push-tush.
Right.
They've had opportunities to go to the push-tush, and they haven't used it. Saquon Barkley has disappeared, and they're not using him in the offense. A.J. Brown, of all his whining and complaining, he gets the ball, but it's not really what the offense should be doing. Trying to force the ball into A.J. Brown. They've got to spread the ball around. We should be seeing Devonta Smith. We should be seeing Goddard. We should be seeing A.J. Brown sprinkled in. But we should see Saquon Barkley and Saquon Barkley and Saquon Barkley. And when they get to 3rd and 2 situations, we should see Jalen Hurts in a push-tush. And if it's 4th and 1, we should see Jalen Hurts in a push-tush, because that's what the Eagles do best. That's who they are. But they've gotten away from it because everybody criticizes them for it. And so are we going to see the Eagles we've been making excuses for them for 4 and 5 different weeks now. This team has all the tools in the shed. They have the offensive players, they have the defensive players. They're obviously the defending Super Bowl champions, but man, something just doesn't seem right. They've got to go find it this week against the Chargers.
And if the Cowboys happen to win Thursday night in Detroit, it really puts a lot more pressure on the Eagles, because they're right on their tails at that point.
Yeah, we've got to see this Eagle team is clearly what we believe the class of the NFC. I truly believe they're a better roster than what the Bears have. They're a better roster than what the Packers have. They're a more complete team than the Lions. They're the complete team at the top, but something is just not right in the way they're playing football. And I don't know if it's a flip of a switch. I don't know that they can get it. And this Charger team they're fighting for their life. We've talked about the Chargers schedule and what they have to run through. And they've got the weapons. They've got Vidal in the backfield when he got hurt.
Hampton might be back, though.
We thought Hampton was going to be the guy. This Vidal kid can play. They've got McConkey on the outside. They've got Keenan Allen on the outside. They've got Quentin Johnson. When Herbert's there running the football, they've got an offense that can move the ball. And then they're a sneaky defense. They've got these guys. They can sack you. They can get the interception. So the Chargers, they're 8-4 for a reason. They're a team that can play football. But, man, their schedule down the stretch is brutal, and this is a must-win home game for them.
I think it's kind of a must-win game for both teams. Again, this is a really good pro football schedule this week, guys. Check it all out. Look for the match of the day. Don't forget the $50 no-worry wager as well. But before we come back and get into our last segment of the day, I want to touch on last man standing for pro football as well. Congratulations to the two guys that are kind of fighting it out right now. You're going toe-to-toe. We talked about earlier, the puppies were barking. You both had dogs. One of you guys had the Cowboys plus 3.5 on Thanksgiving winner, and one had the Carolina Panthers at home against, at that time, the number 1 seed in the NFC, the LA Rams, plus 10.5. Neither one of you guys needed points because they both won outright. So congratulations on to week 14. Good luck. We'll see what your guys' picks are. I know once they're in and the games have started, John will go ahead and send those picks out so everybody can kind of know who to root for at that point. But really an interesting week 14. Some big games across the board, some great division games, some great conference games, and a lot of games that mean something to one or both teams as far as postseason goes. So not only is all the great action going on in football, basketball, hockey, it's an exciting time, but UFC 323, and guess what? Come to our books, you can watch it for free. We're going to be showing it here. Great drink specials. The atmosphere is crazy. It's a great card that night. So there's a lot of college football going on, but come to our books, have some fun, and enjoy UFC 323.
Yeah, and it just shapes up your Saturday night between $3 beers, $3 shots, $1.99 margaritas, Ohio State, Indiana at 5 o'clock. UFC 323. We're going to get to that main event card, in that 7:30, 8 o'clock hour. So Indiana, Ohio State's going to finish up. You should be about 3 or 4 beers in, 2 margaritas in, and then we're going to get to UFC. And we've got a great card. I mean,
and hopefully you've won and you can celebrate that with a shot.
Divashali and Jan, we're going to see him. Divashali, I'm going to go Mirab because I'm going to continue to butcher his name. But the bantamweight title event here, these guys, we're not seeing the big guys, the big heavyweights. We're in the bantamweight division at 135. So Mirab's a $4.25 favorite over Jan. But this fight is going to be absolutely fantastic. This is the second time these guys have fought. Mirab's going for his 4th title defense, coming off of 3 dominating 2025 performances. So he's fighting for his 4th time to defend his title in 2025, and he dominated Jan the last time that they fought. 202 total strikes to 87, took him down 11 times. Jan's coming off 3 straight wins, but this is going to be, an absolutely great title fight. But the undercards are also really good here. You're going to see Indiana, Ohio State be the match of the day at 5 o'clock. After that game gets over with, the undercard here in the flyweight title, these guys fight at 125, is going to be your second match of the day. So take advantage of a 2-time match of the day. Pantoja is a $2.45 favorite here. The Brazilian flyweight. He's going to be making his 5th title defense. He's a 35-year-old fighter going up against Joshua Van, 24 years old. This is a guy up and coming in the division, and I think this is I chose this as a match of the day instead of the main event because I think this is one where we normally see these lower weight fighters be excellent submission guys, be excellent takedown guys. We really see the skill level in the UFC of these guys punching and striking and kicking. But Joshua Van is one of those guys that absolutely wants to stand and bang and don't try and go and shoot at my legs. Let's just have an absolute war on our feet here. So that's what I'm looking forward to in this.
Well, I know where I'm going to be
co-main
Saturday night.
event is to watch these two guys, 35 years old, 24 years old, see if the young gun can kind of just bang and take and see if he can knock him out. This is going to be a great fight. And then the 3rd level card, Moreno versus Teixeira. Tesoro Teixeira, he has, I think this is his 8th fight in the UFC. He has not been an underdog in any of those fights. He lost to Brandon Royval 2 fights ago. He's fought his way back. He opened the dog here against Moreno, but has since now become the favorite. So he's your 4th seeded flyweight taking on Moreno. Teixeira is the 7th seeded flyweight taking Moreno, who is the 4th seeded flyweight. Yet we see the 7th seeded flyweight come the favorite here. So again, another really, really good bout. Moreno, obviously a former flyweight championship that basically held the belt and lost the belt and reclaimed the belt kind of from like 2020 to 2023. He was the dominant champion within this division. So great young lightweight fights here at the top of this UFC 323 card. Again, we're going to see 9 bouts on this card. Get to our properties. Take in Ohio State, Indiana. Start these undercards. They're going to start around 5 o'clock. Free to watch.
Yep.
We talk about places: Durango Station, Red Rock Station, Santa Fe, GVR, Sunset. These are going to be on monster big screens for you to enjoy the UFC, again, for free. For free. Add in $3 beers, $3 shots, $1.99 margaritas. Mix in the football. We've got a Saturday.
I got to go because I'm going to go grab my chair. I want to make sure I have a seat here.
Make your
on
plans
Saturday
now.
night.
Station Casinos Saturday night. UFC taking the events for free.
No better place to be. We look forward to seeing you guys this weekend. As we talked about, a lot of great college football, a lot of great pro football, and don't forget the free viewing for UFC 323 and our Big 7 books on Saturday night. So good luck this week. Have some fun. We'll see you guys here at all of our properties. For Jason, I'm Chucky for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, powered by STN Sports. Good luck, and we'll see you guys next week.